Well, Black people are Native Americans. We've had a lot of proof that some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty, and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
How was the dramatization? How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank really is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have the largest...
He didn't exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Happy Educational Friday. Happy Educational Friday. We got some things to get into, you guys. Please like the video. If you're just getting in here, if it's your first live, welcome. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. What else? Oh yeah, subscribe, please. Thank you. And then if you're returning Dollar Dawn to the channel, welcome back. Okay. Hey guys. So I was thinking, right? This is what sparked this. This is what sparked this title for this weekend, right? Or this week. Well, number one, we were sold out, right? Every time we make headway, the government takes from us, right? And a lot of the times it had been real. We had been tricked a lot of the times. But even with Martin Luther King, I believe, because I don't have a fact, but I do know for a fact he was working with the government. But I believe that was a thing that Martin Luther King and the government possibly could have worked out to take away our freedoms. Because think about it, right after desegregation, we not only lost our money, We lost our economy. We lost our political power. We lost everything. We really been Democrats ever since. Like we lost everything. Our social status, everything. We lost everything to be around people who don't want to be around us. And for the life of me, I'm not blaming my elders because they were young, most of them, and they didn't know. But that is what we're paying for now. And thank you. Shout out to the person. I don't know who this was, but this lady sounded like she was from Jamaica. But this lady got in my chat. I mean, in my DM, and she said, "You right, Voodoo." She was like, Netta and Charles are in a better situation because they actually own. And she goes on to say how it's much better. She was like, because I like you, I have a mortgage and I can get kicked out of here. And even if I pay off the house, you know what I'm saying? She was like, they could still come and take my house or my land, you know, all kind of stuff like eminent domain and craziness like that. But then she went on to say, Black Americans have to start owning stuff again. She was like, that's where we are getting messed up. We don't own anything. Now, remember, prior to Martin Luther King, we owned everything. Houses, schools, buses, cars, libraries, hospitals, you name it, insurance companies, banks, you name it, we owned it. That's why I believe that Martin Luther King either was swindled and didn't know all of what he was setting us up for, or he was in on it. But nevertheless, we haven't owned anything for real ever since. Like we literally traded in everything that we owned to be next to people who don't want to be around us. And even in 2024, it's a lot of them act as if they want to be around us, but they really don't. They just, if it benefits them, they'll definitely take it. Like for instance, you ever see clear people adopt young Black boys and they turn out to be athletes, or you'll see clear women marry Black men and they be thinking, and Black women, we have this bad. Well, she be sleeping with Black men. I don't see how she racist. You don't understand. They only be around us, and not all of them, but a large number of them only be around us because they need to benefit from us. We're just the duck gooses, or duck geese, if I want to be, grammatically correct. We're the people who think that these people really care, when the fact of the matter is they don't. Now, why is this important? When the lady said we need to start owning stuff, I was like, you ain't lying. We do. I said, but unfortunately, the way my people set up, they too busy being entertained and dressing nice, and they ain't not trying to own nothing. You know what I'm saying? And right now, our mindset, what ownership is to us in 2024 is owning a house. Owning. And I'm talking about myself included. I don't own this house. If I paid cash for this house, I still don't own this house. If I buy land and pay cash for land, I still don't technically own that land, because if I don't pay property taxes, they coming to get it. Or if they hit me with the eminent domain, you did. You see what I'm saying? And when she said that, I was like, wow. Like, it just made me start thinking about it. And we really don't own nothing. And our idea of owning is not really real owning. Does that make sense? But she said in Jamaica, she didn't say Jamaica. She said in the Caribbean, once you buy your house or your property, it's yours. Ain't no taxes, ain't no property insurance. It's yours. Like once you buy it, it belongs to you. That don't go like that in America. And the fact of the matter is they took our land and now we paying them to rent on it. That's literally what we're doing, is paying to rent our own land. I like this. Tamara Talk says, it's always been insane to me. And if you tell people desegregation was a big part of our demise, they look at you crazy. Girl, they'll cuss you out, child. Girl, them people will cuss. I'm sorry. I done told people about that. And girl, people will cuss me out. Lord forbid I bring up Mike, aka Martin Luther King. Girl, they be windmilling. They be ready to them people don't play about them planted figures. But it just is what it is. Most of us are indoctrinated. But why is this important? I started thinking about treaties and things of that nature, right? Because that's how we lost a large bulk of land. Not only through the treaties. Remember, who knows how else we lost a lot of land? What other thing happened to Black Americans in the early to mid 1900s? What happened to us where we lost a lot of land? We talked about it before. Let me see who be paying attention. What was going on? What was the thing that happened? It was a thing that happened to a lot of Black Southerners. I'll say that. I'll give you that clue. It's kind of like giving you the answer. But a lot of Black Southerners went through this. I want to see who's going to get it. No, not paper genocide. I mean, that too, but that dad go, Nikki. Thank you, Nikki. The Great Migration. Okay? Thank you, Nikki. Deborah, you got it. The Great Migration. Yes. Flower Child, shout out. When we went through the Great Migration, remind you, it was fueled by the KKK. That, remember, the Dixiecrats. Remember, I played that clip of Malcolm X saying the Democrats ain't nothing but the Dixiecrats. Remember, the Dixiecrats are nothing but the party for the Ku Klux Klan. They are the party of the KKK. That's why Malcolm X, which is probably, to be honest, as far as I can see so far, he's probably the only honorable leader we've ever had, period. He probably literally the only leader, real honorable leader who had us in with our best interests at heart. I don't think any other one was, but neither here nor there. When he said the Dixiecrats were the Democrats, he was talking about the party of the KKK. Now, the KKK was formulated and used to do just what it did, to run Black people off of their lands. Now, we see it in a different way from our point of view. So yes, they were burning crosses. Yes, they were hanging people. Yes, they were doing all those horrible, heinous things to our ancestors. Absolutely. But it was done on purpose so that we can leave and flee, which a large bulk of us have. That is why you could literally see most Black Americans from the North have family down South. It was due to the Great Migration that happened between, I want to say, the early 1920s all the way to 1974. All of that time, they were pushing people from the South up to the North. Or if they weren't pushing them from the South to the North, guess where else they pushed them in? Big cities. So you would leave your plots and land and hundreds of acres of land to go into a city, like my great grandmother did. She left land where she owned to come to New Orleans. She owned land where she was. She didn't need to come to New Orleans. But around you, mind you, this is in the 1940s. This is all, you see what I'm saying? All happening during the same time. So they either pushed you to the north, or they pushed you into major cities. Another way they were able to do it through the migration is entertainment. Like drop me off in Harlem. Good old Harlem. Things like that. People feeling like the New Yorkers were just these fire people and they had freedom and liberty and they were rich and they looked nice and they dressed nice. That was another way they could get people up to the north. And not just Harlem, all over the north. Another thing, even in New Orleans, the big lights, big city. That's fascinating to somebody who come up off the plantation. And remind you, when you say they taught us that plantation means slave. That's not true. That's not true. All plantations consisted of slave owners and slaves. Let me say that again. All plantations did not consist of slave owners and slaves. That's false. That's not true. So when you see somebody say, oh, my mama and them grew up on the plantation, or my grandmother, that don't necessarily mean they were slaves. A lot of them owned their own plantations. Okay? My grandmother talked about how they used to be on the plantation sharecropping. You see what I'm saying? And her mother before her. A lot of that went on. So I know they teach us that in school, but we got to be very mindful that they teach us that in a certain way so that we can be food. For instance, I spoke to this clear girl at work. We were talking about politics, really, is what we were talking about. And she's a clear girl from New Jersey. She said her mother is a stone liberal. Now, she don't understand why her mother is stone liberal. And when she told her mama she wasn't voting, I guess, left or whatever, her mama had a big hissy fit. But I learned that Jersey has a large liberal population. Who would have thought? I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't be up there with the Tims and all of that. So I didn't know. Long story short, she was telling me about her mother and how she wanted to vote and how her mother's running around Project 2025. Ooh, Project 2025. And I was saying, girl, the Negroes is doing that too, girl. Everywhere I turn around, Project 2025. Ooh, I said, we were talking about how I think it's a scare tactic and things of that nature. But I said, girl, I didn't know this. Who was that on that Juneteenth? Who that was came in the chat on Juneteenth and said, Vu, New York had a celebration for freeing the slaves. And I said, whoever that was, you on here. If you're not on here, you're going to be in the replay game. Somebody told me about New York slavery. And I told the clear girl, like I told y'all, I never knew that. I literally never knew that. You know why I never knew that? Because they teach us differently in the South than they taught in the North. If you on in from the North, and I mean, I guess Virginia on above Virginia and up, put a 1 in the chat. If you born in the South, Virginia on down, put a 2 in the chat. I'm not talking about the West Coast. I feel like that's a whole nother story. But if you on here, you might that was you, Author Empress. Yes. If you on here and you from the West, you might can help me out too, but I don't know. That's just a whole other horse of a different color. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When I grew up and they taught us about slavery, they taught us that all of the slaves resided in the South and that the free blacks resided in the North. They didn't undergo. This is what I was taught. Put a 3 in the chat if you were taught the same in the South. If you from the South. Put a 3 in the chat if you were taught that all slaves resided in the South. Put a 4 in the chat if you're from the South and you were taught something different. I'm public schools. I was taught that all of the slaves resided in the South and everybody up north was free. That's why you hear about the Harlem Renaissance. They dress nice. They look nice. Now, this clear girl from Jersey was like, oh, no. She said, no, there were slaves in Jersey and New York and a whole lot of places in the North. She was like, they didn't teach you that? And I said, no, they didn't. And she was like, wait a minute. So you guys were never taught about slavery in the North. I said, not once. I said, so when you see Black people who are super radical when it comes to reparations and as far as a cash payment, I say, yeah, the Mason-Dixon line, Thule, that's what it is. I said, when you see Black people who are stone heart about this reparations thing, it's because they were taught that all Black people in the South were slaves and all Black people in the North were not. So when they be hollering, we want our reparations, Tariq Nasheed and all them people, they believe that because from the first time you introduced the history, all the way through college, all at the church house, them people say every Black person down in the South was slave. And that was a lie. Now, this girl told me they wasn't getting taught that, and she's a clear girl. Now, mind you, her mama liberal, so she didn't grow up around like rich, clear people. She grew up in the mixed neighborhood, so I didn't tell her this, but she cool with niggas and clear people. So she not one of them. Does that make sense? Or at least she seemed like she's not one of them. But she said they didn't get taught that because they obviously knew about slavery up there and they knew about slavery down south. I was like, wow, that's crazy to me. Yes, I knew that, Gigi. Yes, I did. Gigi asked that I know that Cali in Texas was a part of Mexico. Absolutely. When they first come here, Mexico, that's why you see Mexicans in Cali. Where? Cali in Texas. Cali in Texas. Cali in Texas. I didn't ask her what school she went to. We were just talking. But yes, I did know that because prior to the conquistadors and whoever else done come over here, it was one big landmass. That's why you'll find if you, like, for instance, my ancestry, that's why I find that my people were located in Texas and in what's now Mexico. Even though they derived, because it was all one thing. It was all one thing. That's why a lot of people from Texas, a lot of them have family in Cali, because especially even the clear Mexicans, because it was all one big thing. We're going to get into that one day too. And that's another thing I forgot to do, Louisiana Purchase. Every time I'm doing these, Educational Fridays, I be forgetting the topics I be wanting to discuss. Let me write it down. Let me put it in my phone because I'm not about to keep doing this. Louisiana. We will be doing this next Friday. Purchase. That will be our subject for the next Friday, without a doubt. All right. So, long story short, thank you for the super chat. Your priestess next door. Hey, boo, today is Natalie DeSelle's birthday. The one that says he ain't even from Acorn. Oh, she passed a few years ago. Can we give her a birthday shot? Yes, absolutely. I didn't even know that was her name. Wow. Oh my God. That is crazy. That is crazy. Yes, we can definitely do a birthday shout out. Y'all drop some cakes in the chat. Y'all know who she talking about, huh? I put her down in the emojis. She talking about this lady. Oh man, I didn't even know that was her name. Now I want to go do some research on her. I feel so bad. Wow, I didn't know she passed a few years ago. They talking about this lady. Where my thing at? Girl, I can't see nothing. This one.
He ain't even from Acorn.
So y'all drop some cakes in the chat. Let's do this birthday for our girl Natalie. Thank you for everything you've done, because you probably didn't realize when you did that part it was gonna be this big. Shout out to the beautiful Natalie and happy Earth Day to you. Drop them cakes in the chat, man. Where the thing at? Girl, I don't even know where the damn birthday song is. Hold on. This is so not on cue. There you go. All right.
Happy birthday.
Now you know that's a shame. I'm sorry, y'all. I was talking down and didn't even add myself back to the doggone live.
Now you know that's a shame.
Sorry. I was talking down and never even added myself back to the live. I'm sorry. No, what I was saying was happy birthday to that beautiful person. Your priestess next door. Please make sure you let her know. Y'all know I'm slow over here. Please let her know that I send my love to her and we revere her over here. Okay, you let her know, let their family know that we Bunda say, "Boo, are you okay? Boo, are you okay?" Girl, I'm just talking down too. But no, priestess, let her know that we appreciate her over here, and we thank her and her family for sharing her with us. I do recall her playing in BAPS and all of that stuff. I remember that. I remember that. I just never knew her name. I never knew her name. Y'all know we go through this every other week. I don't even know why. Just, we go through this every other week. Nevertheless, like the video, like the video. I'm sorry. So look, so I learned something new. But listen, why is this important? Why would they teach people in the South something different than they taught people up north? You see what I'm saying? Ask yourself that. Why would the students in the South have a different curriculum when it pertains to history than the students up north? That is done on purpose. Because remember, the Southern people, they need them to remain stupid and dumb. And they need them to remain indoctrinated, which we're all indoctrinated. But it's deeper than that in the South, and we're going to get into it. Nope, our books wasn't the same or nothing. Arthur Empress says New York supported slavery and didn't want to even free the enslaved. Their hands were forced. Cotton was a big economic source for New York. Let me tell y'all something. Okay, I'm about to go look at it, Steph. Let me tell y'all something. They didn't want to free the slaves in the South. The biggest lie we were ever taught was Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. That man did not free no slaves. Let me say this. I'm glad you came up with that. Let me say this before we get to what the super chat from Steph. We were also taught that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Not one time in the history of war anywhere. Let me say that again. Not one time in the history of war anywhere did a nation go to war with another nation simply over the people. What are the main things nations go to war over? Put it in the chat. What do nations go to war over? I'm waiting for somebody to put in the chat. Why do people and nations go to war? It has never been about slaves. It has never been about people. What do people go to war for? Money. Yes. Resources. Yes. Money, power, respect. Not really respect, but money and power. Yeah. Land. Yes. Oil. Yes. See, you getting it? You getting it? See, listen. Oh, y'all missing one. What's another one? Money, land, territory. That's all land. You're missing one. You're missing another one. You're missing two more. There are two more reasons nations go to war. We got money. We got land. There go one. Religion. Yep. You're missing one more. Diamonds fall under money. Agriculture fall under land. Nigga say coochie. There go. We always there go cosmic sun soul. Politics. Listen to me and listen to me good. Okay? Listen to me and listen to me good. You gotta understand this. Whenever two nations go to war, it's not about what you feel. Like, oh, I need you to respect me. It's not about that. RESPECT, respect me. Money and power? Yes. But respect, them people don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? They don't care if you respect them or not. Listen to what it is. Oh, yeah, well, coochie is right in a sense. Yeah, back in the early Bible days, type T's. Typically, you know what I'm saying? But neither here nor there. Listen. Whenever nations go to war, they typically go to war for money, or which could be under any sort of resource as far as like any kind of trade. Diamonds, gold, whatever. They go to war for money. They go to war for religion. Because remember, y'all, on the surface, you would think religion is just, oh, they just want you to believe a certain thing. Religion encompasses a whole lot of power, because if you can get a person to believe something here, you own everything else. Does that make sense? If you get a person to believe something here, it literally controls everything else. So religion is major. That's why when the conquistadors come and the British and all them other folk, the French, and they come over here, what was the name of the ship? Jesus, Jesus, if that's what you want to call them in the language, because they need you to be enslaved here, imprisoned here. Even the clear people, they don't care about none of that. Color, that's what they give us to fight over down at the bottom. Them people they need you enslaved right up in here, indoctrinated right up in here, imprisoned right up in here. You can walk around thinking you're free all you want, but they need to control this. So religion is major. Money is major. Land is huge. Why is that important? And we're going to get into how we lost the land and all of the things that happened with us. Because with land, now you have ownership. Now you can do so much. And I told y'all, land is the resources. It ain't in no check. It ain't in no Fortune 500 company. It's your resources, your wealth comes from land. Matter of fact, I want to show you this. Since we on it. Let me show you something, just so you know I ain't playing. Hold on, let me show you something. These black people was on here saying it. Literally, hold on, not here. Shoot, go home. Let me show y'all something. I need y'all to know this and never forget it. Let me say that again. I need y'all to know this, not think it. I need you to know this and never, ever, ever forget it. This is extremely important, okay? This is extremely imperative. I need everybody on here to know what I'm about to say and never, ever, 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 ever forget it, okay? How do I get to my history over here? I was just sending it to myself. But land is extremely important because with land, you have control. You see what I'm saying? So when you see people, when they took the land from us and we just thinking it's some old willy-nilly type teas or whatever, they really were taking a lot of our resources. I want to say it's this one. I think it's this one. No, not that one. Hold on. I'm about to show y'all. Hold on. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Damn, I was just watching this. Hold on. There was this black family who was fighting for their land, and they were talking about how important the resources for land was. And they were saying that all of your wealth and resources is within the land. Hold on. Girl, I can't get right. I want to say it was let me go to my videos. I need y'all to see this because I need y'all to understand how important this is. This is extremely important, what I'm about to show you guys. It's got to be on one of these videos. Oh, did I click it on here? Did I click it from? I can't find it. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see if this is it. Yeah, this is it. This is it. Hold on, I think this is it. Hold on. Oh no, this is a plantation. And you know what else too I hate about this? They put these plantations up for like doggone for like, you know, as far as like museums and stuff of that nature. Man, that shit, they lied. I can't find it. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But it was this couple, this family who was all about saving their history in Georgia, because a lot of slaves, and we'll get into that later, when once they were freed and they popped that man upside the head, Abraham Lincoln, they were able to acquire land. They actually were able to acquire land. And they were talking about, this family was talking about how important having land is, how it really is just a whole, it's wealth, it's what it is. But neither here nor there. So religion, land, politics. Politics is another thing that controls the people. Let me say that again. Politics is another thing that controls the people. Why is this important? The reason I can say that is because politics is just as strong in religion as religion. That's why certain people, when you go to talking to them about politics, they get real, like, they get really upset. Because politics is a form of religion. People just don't know it yet. You know what I'm saying? Most people won't ever know it. But they just don't know it. So politics, land, religion, obviously resources like gold, money, and things of that nature. Those are the main things people fight over. And when we gave our stuff away or was forced off what we didn't give away, we didn't realize what we were leaving behind. Okay? We didn't realize what we were leaving behind. All right. What's going on? They said, get him out of here. What happened? What's going on? We had a troll. I missed them. The Daughters of the, is this him? The Daughters of the Confederacy campaign for decades to have realties of the South scrubbed from social. Yeah, that's true, J Deuce. That can't be him. Who y'all talking about? Who y'all got up out of here? What he was saying? Oh, here you go. Where's voodoo come from in Africa? Well, if you knew, you would know voodoo don't come from Africa, first and foremost. But he's not even on here. Yeah, that's not. I think it's him. Is it him? Tim. Yeah. Voodoo don't come from Africa. That's another misconception. But neither here nor there. Let's move on. So look, he said you got off a boat from Africa voodoo. Stand by. Because I know he's still on here. He just can't, you know what I'm saying? He just can't comment. Tim, I want to show you something, Tim. Tim, please, if you can, please come look at this. Let me see. Let me show you something. Let me show you something. Let me show you something, bro. Hold on to your love. You got to hold on. Hold on to your, ooh, baby, hold on. Yay. Oh, you got to hold on. Please, I need to show you something, Fat. Hold on. Get off of here. I didn't ask you for this. Get off of here. Now, it has been alleged that my people came off of a boat. Yes, it has. Whoa, yes, it has. Yes, it has. And the reason I say alleged because it has never, ever been proven. That's crazy, ain't it? But I know what has been proven. Clear people came off a boat. Did you know? Wouldn't you know? Didn't you know? I know who did get off of a boat. I know who did. Hold on. I want to show you because this is education for us all. You know what I'm saying? Let's just go with the movie. Let's just go here. This is education for us all. I know who did get off the boat though, from somewhere else that didn't belong here, and it's factual information, and you can go find it. It's documented. Guess who? The clear people. You see what I'm saying? So the immigrants down at Ellis Island that still come through there today is your folk. See that boat with all them clear people on it? Look, all them clear people. I can imagine. I ain't gonna say it because they're gonna get my channel clipped. But look at all these clear folk on these boats. Look, got to be more careful. I mean, you got to be more careful. This doesn't even make sense. Hold on. Can we make it bigger? No. This don't even make no sense. Look. I know who family did come off the boat. They ain't got no pictures like that of my people coming off no boat. They just got sketches. But I know this is a photograph. You feel me? I know who did get off the boat. Where were they coming from? All over. How do people in Texas say Europe? Europe and Africa. That's another part y'all ain't ready for. Europe, Africa, everywhere. Mostly Europe, though. Mostly Europe. Yup. Straight off the boat. Yes, sir. Straight off the boat. Do you hear me? See, they don't teach us this. They didn't teach us about this. I had to learn this when I grew up and as a grown woman. So next time a clear person come to you and say, we come off a boat, please show them this. Right, Alicia, this is insanitary at this point. This is insanitary. Remember how they say they had hundreds of us stuck down in the boat? And there was so many of us that, we was packed up. Look at these motherfuckers packed like sardines. Oh, my God. Tisha, you said what I was about to say, but I ain't going to say it. I ain't going to say it on the hill, but what they say to people, they said we didn't get smallpox from them. We got salmonella poison. And why was that? And if you know, you know. And then imagine being on this boat. Boy, Lord have mercy. Do you hear me? Imagine being on this boat. You had to be there. You just had to be there. I don't think, you know what I mean? I don't think you just had to be there. You just absolutely had to be there. Okay? You had to be there. I wouldn't want to be. But if you know what I know, when they say it wasn't just salmonella poison, they say it wasn't no salmonella poison. Them people said it was no, it wasn't smallpox, it was salmonella poison. And they say they got that salmonella poison because blah blah blah. So if they came over here and gave us salmonella poison because they like to cohabitate with things of, other creatures, imagine. With that boat, girl, Lord have mercy. I would have jumped overboard. I ain't gonna lie. I would have jumped overboard. I don't think I would have made it. Never would have made it. I don't think I would have made it. I'd have jumped. I would have jumped. Oh my God, I would have jumped. But neither here nor there. I don't have time to really entertain the troll. This was in the early 1900s, Fat. In the early 1900s. Once enough of them got settled around here, they started inviting everybody over. Yeah. And that's how they was coming. Like sardines. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. If y'all want to do something on Ellis Island, the immigration to Ellis Island, we could do that too. I could write that down. If y'all want me to do an educational Friday on immigration to Ellis Island, I will do it. Immigration to Ellis Island. See, y'all don't understand. This is part of the reason why they had the Statue of Liberty built for these people. That wasn't for us. That was for them. I already wrote it down. We doing it. So I couldn't imagine. I would have jumped overboard. I don't think I would have made it. But shout out to you, Tim. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, that's why we went to war. Lincoln ain't freed no damn slaves. Now let's move on. Now, what I really want to start with are the treaties. There were a lot of treaties that happened between the indigenous population here, which is us, and the foreigners, which are they. They are the they, and we are the us, and the they not like us. Does that make sense? So, boom. We signed a lot of treaties. Some of us we didn't sign. Some of the treaties were forged signatures by the Native Americans. That's why I keep telling y'all, it's extremely important that you understand the difference between an Indian and a Native American. The Native American was a government. Why is that what you call them? Am I on? Who email I'm on? Oh, yeah. My bad. Oh, Diva sent me some pictures of slave markers in Jersey. Let's look at that. Let's look at it. Wow. Look, y'all. Thank you, Diva. Hold on. Let me let y'all see. Look. That's the slave market in Jersey, girl. I ain't know that. The clear girl had to tell me about that. Well, I knew about the New York, but I didn't know about Jersey. Look, enslaved Africans once sold here, Cap. African slavery in New Jersey began with earlier European settlement. By 1766, circa 800 captive people had been sold here at the Cooper Street Ferry and two other nearby ferry landings. In Africa, approximately 24 million captured men, women, and children marched to coastal prisons. I'm sorry, I can't see it. And then it says only half survived the journey. These 12 million survivors that endured the deplorable condition of the Middle Passage Ocean crossings. I'm sorry. Whereas an additional 2 million died from the disease, malnutrition, dehydration, drowning, suicide, and abuse. By 1800, New Jersey's enslaved African population exceeded 12,000. New Jersey was the last northern state to emancipate, adopting gradual abolition in 1804 and finally rectifying the 13th Amendment on January 23rd, 1866. Well, we know that's a lie. I could debunk that right now. I can literally debunk that right now. Watch me work. Stand by. Stand by. Watch me work. Okay? It's free. Just watch. Just watch. Don't believe me, just watch. Da-da. Don't believe me. Don't believe me. Don't believe me, just watch. Please stand by. Okay? All right. Now, according to, hold on. Damn it. Oh, I could just Google it. Screw it. We about to debunk that whole thing right there. We about to debunk that whole thing right there. Hold on. Hold on. So, according to this statistic, right? According to this statistic, I didn't say it. This is what they said. But they said, hold on, let me find my little part where I need to go to. Blah, blah, there you go. Now, according to this marker, whatever they call it, y'all know what I mean. According to this is why you got to question everything. They put these lies in front of you on purpose. Facts. Now, they said that these people, it said in Africa, approximately 24 million captured men, women, and children marched to coastal prisons. Only half survived the journey. There were 12 million survivors that endured deplorable conditions on the Middle Passage Ocean crossways, where dehydration, drowning, and suicide and abuse. By 1800, New Jersey's enslaved African population exceeded to 12,000. New Jersey was the latest northern state to emancipate, adopting gradual abolition in 1804 and finally rectifying the 13th Amendment. All right. They're trying to say that these 24 million are the major part of this whole thing, right? Because remember, it will make your mind breeze past the fact that they said only 800 captives came here from Africa. Only 800 captives came here from Africa. And somehow them 800 turned into 12,000 or however. Yeah, 12,000 down at the bottom. But they'll tell you, oh, over 24 million captured men, women, and children were sent all over. Well, where were they sent? Because the biggest landmass, which is America, or North America for that matter, is they only got 388,000. Yes, ma'am. We only got 388,000. Now, some might say, well, Vu, maybe the other millions went down to the Caribs and to South America. Cap, because it was already written that when Columbus landed in the Caribs or the Caribbeans or whatever, he met people who were us, copper-colored Indians. He wrote about it. Remember, Columbus never made it up to to North America. He never made it up to North America. So that would then tell me that 24 million people did not come from Africa. Where did they go, Fat? South America already teaches its people, for the most part, through family history and oral tradition, that they didn't come from no damn Africa. Hell, the Honduran people don't teach their children they came from Africa, or at least they didn't back when I was back when I was young like that. And I met my man, well, ex-man, Jesus Christ. She said the other pig clear. I gotta read these super chats. But you got to watch how they do those numbers, and they say 800 turned into 12,000. So what, they was over there humping like dogs? Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I don't know this to be fact. This is just what I believe, you guys. I believe in my belief. I'm just a believer. I ain't nothing else but a believer. But I believe, you guys, that very little to no Africans came to the Americas, okay? I believe that very little to no African came to the Americas. I believe that I know that we were already here. I know that we were in this land and all over the Americas. And I believe that they just wrote that narrative to keep you, to make you, to get you in here. Does that make sense? So yeah, it's all cap. Let me read some super chats. Hold on. Thank you, Steph, for the super chat. She says, Vu, I just sent you a picture of slave selling location marker in New Jersey. Yeah, we learned that the emancipation was only for slaves in the Confederacy. Wow. But it will make sense, because remember, the Emancipation Proclamation was written for the South, and it had nothing to do with slaves. It was about labor and money. That's all it was. It was about labor and money. So to an extent, that is true. The one you want to be, oh my God, thank you for the generous super chat. Let them know, Vu. Yes, girl. Thank you, girl. Thank you. Shout out for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Joanne. She says, Vu, you the best. Thanks for the great history lesson. Thank you so much. Y'all really showing love. And Steph, thank you for the super chat. Vu, the other picture is much clearer. Yeah, I went to the other picture. Hold on. It's kind of like further back, so I wouldn't have been able to read it. Hold on. See? Thank you, Steph, for that. Because I was 2 weeks old. 2 weeks ago is when I learned all of this. I did not know. I didn't know. I had no idea. That's crazy. Now let's get into why we're here. Thank y'all so much for the super chats, you guys. Thank y'all. Shout out to everybody in the building. Like the video if you haven't already. Please like the video. Please like the video. Please like the video. Now, why are we here, Ike? Why is we here? There were a lot of treaties that were signed. A lot of treaties that were signed. Some were forged. Some were signed. Some were signed on behalf of us, and they were not us. They were the Native American. I keep telling y'all, the Native American and the Indian were two different people. I know they today in 2024, they tell us today, our people were called Indians. No, they were not. Your people were called, you said change my browser zoom. What's wrong with it? It looked all right to me. Look, your people were Native Americans when they first come up with that, okay? I want to go over one of these treaties with y'all. Hold on. Oh, you made the browser zoom for the picture. Gotcha. Thank you, boo-boo. Thank you, boo-boo. Thank you, Jacqueline McBride. Love you more, Voodoo. Bother you later. Thank you. Yeah, I see it in Cola. Thank you. Thank you so much. What's wrong with my neck? I don't know. It was hurting. And when I went and got my doggone pedicure, I had that chair going in overtime. I don't know if it was the kneading part or whatever, but I had that chair going in overtime, girl. My neck been bothering me. I need another massage. Dang. Let's get into I might need something, Tuli. Tuli said I need a chiropractor. I need something, child. Let's get into the civilization plan. Now, remember, there were a lot of wars happening. A lot of Indian wars nobody want to talk about. Obviously, the Civil War, the Revolutionary War. It was a whole lot of things going on, okay? It was a whole lot of things going on. And after these things would take place, something major would happen. There will always be a big shift in land or plans. Like basically, so, okay, this is how we're going to do moving forward. Reconstruction era. Hey, this is how we're going to do moving forward. Civilization plan. I wanted to share with you guys the civilization plan, right? So it says the U.S. government imposes a civilization plan. Now, what we need a civilization plan for? Boom. It says, the forced, and this is from nps.gov. Y'all know I love me some NPS. It says the forced adaptation to a way of life similar to the white settlers resulted in much shift in culture and livelihood. Okay. The destruction of the Cherokee home front during the Creek War. Remember, I told you all of these big updates always happen after a war. So this is, look, the destruction of the Cherokee home front during the Creek War proved one of the strongest indications that adherence to and even success within the government civilization plan would not matter. Listen, this is about to get good. The Cherokees endured these offenses in hopes of demonstrating their fidelity to the United States government. Cherokees believed that a violent response to the attacks on their home front would only result in greater destruction for their nature. Mind you, these were the copper color people. They're going to say Native American all in these paperworks. Don't worry about that. Just know the Native American and the Indian are two different people. Remember that. Even when I say reading these documents, don't pay no attention to that. They talking about us. Okay? Now, after the American Revolution, the United States government created a civilization policy that it promoted among Indian groups. It says the goal of civilization was to force Cherokees and other Indian ways from their traditional occupations of hunting and warfare into livelihoods that resemble those of the white citizens and settlers, such as farming. Okay, pause. Let's read that again. Let's read that again. The goal was to force Cherokee and other Indians away from their traditional occupation of hunting and warfare into livelihood that resembles those of white citizens and settlers, such as farming. So prior to this civilization plan, as you can see, we had occupations of hunting, which was the Suma, my people. And we also had occupation of warfare and a lot of things. But they wanted to take us out of who we are. Now, mind you, they did that again. Listen, they did that again. Remember, we were just talking about the migration, the Great Migration. It took the people off of their farmlands and into cities. And what did they go do? Work alongside the clear people? Let Shah Sun go, because he said none of the indigenous tribes called themselves black before colonization or after. Shah Sun, I don't have time right now. Because that's a $5 foot long. Matter of fact, yeah, let me just get you tread light. I ain't gonna get you out of here. Tread light. Listen. So what happened was before the $5 foot long. Anyways, they were trying to get us to go into a new way of living, which was the same way they did with the migration, the Great Migration. We were farming and doing that, and then they wanted us into these major cities doing these jobs that would make us dependent, rather than independent, right? So boom, It says civilization constrained Cherokee men who once derived their status through hunting and gift giving. The government's desire to make Cherokee men farmers proved culturally problematic. It says the Cherokees did not need to learn how to farm, as the prime occupation of Cherokee women was indeed agriculture. So the women were doing it. Cherokee men farmers proved culturally problematic. Oh, I said that already. No, I didn't. It says the Cherokees did not need to learn how to farm, as the primary occupation of the Cherokee woman was indeed agriculture. To avoid a loss of manhood associated with doing woman's work, some Cherokees farmed with slaves on plantations. Others raised livestock on smaller farmsteads. Either way, Cherokees that embraced civilization resided in dwellings that resembled those of white settlers, and their occupants engaged in similar duties. Okay, so what they were saying was, for the Cherokees, those men didn't do agriculture or farm work. That was the woman's job, right? So they didn't want to go into that type of work because it was kind of like, it was degrading. Like, it's almost like telling a man, go in the kitchen right now. Like, most men, not all, but most men don't want to be staying at home cooking and cleaning and all of the things around the house. So that's what it was when it came to this civilization plan. Yes, girl, Steph, yes. Without a doubt. Yes. Wakanda, thank you for the super chat. Wakanda was literally America. That's what it was. But that's a whole nother conversation. I think I missed another super chat. Thank you, Chocolate Bunny. Voodoo, please watch Shaka Zulu when you can. We can do a watch party. Yes, let's do that. Let's do a watch party. Yeah, she knows. It's like being a librarian. Thank y'all for the super chats, guys. So this is part of the civilization plan that they wanted to enforce, right? It says when Cherokee warriors went to participate in the Creek War, they left their homelands and families vulnerable to intrusions by white squatters. We still got squatters' rights and squatters' laws now, right? The greatest source of destruction, however, came in from an East Tennessee militiamen, returning home from the Creek War. These men demolished fencing, burned homes, stole slaves and horses, and destroyed livestock and other foodstuffs such as corn. The militiamen did not bother to differentiate between their Indian allies and foes. Remember, we were already tribal. So this whole one government, one black power, and it just, until we're able to put our differences aside for the greater good of other things, it's just not feasible. They still squatting in New York too, B-Dub. Women and children and the elderly experience threats of violence or threats and acts of violence. Catherine Brown, a daughter of a warrior fighting with Jackson, fled her home to hide in the woods to escape the possibility of at the hands of the militiamen. The Cherokees endured these offenses in hopes of demonstrating their fidelity to the United States government. Cherokee believed that a violent response to the attacks on their home front would only result in a greater destruction for their nation. Yet this did not come to pass, as the federal government refused to compensate the tribe for the tens of thousands of dollars of damage inflicted by the marauding militiamen. When Indian agent returned, J. Mays complained, Jackson defended his soldiers' actions, arguing the testimonies provided by Indians were untrustworthy. Remember, we already know about Andrew Jackson. He hated the Indians. We already know about that. That's nothing to be talked about. He hated the Indians. If it was up to Andrew Jackson, he would have unalived every single Indian he came across. Right? So it goes on to say the destruction of the Cherokee home front during the Creek War proved one of the strongest indications that adherence to and even success within the government civilization policy would not matter. Cherokee men farmed with and without slaves, raised livestock, and engaged in other commercial endeavors. Cherokee women learned to spin. In both cases, the Cherokee embrace of civilization proved of little importance in the face of continued and mounting pressure for land by white Western settlers. Okay? Why is this important? These are all small steps to not only erasing who you are, because you are basically what you do. Your behaviors kind of dictate who you are. So for instance, Black people love throwing meat on the grill. That's an indication of who we are. Behaviors that we do, literally, it dictates who we are, and it lets other people know who we are, and people like us alike. But the problem is, if they take your culture, which are like the creek with the jobs, making them go do what they deem to be women's work, it makes you forget who you are. Same thing happened with migration, with the Great Migration. What happened with the Great Migration was they took people off their plantations, brought them to these major cities, and right now niggas can't plant nothing. Niggas don't know how to plant a seed right now if you pay them to. You know what I'm saying? Now, I want to show you something else. Hold on. Now we got to go into George Washington. Let's get into George Washington. Okay? Now, this is from mountvernon.org, Native American Policy. mountvernon.org. Let me say this before we get into reading this. Whenever you see something happen in one place, that don't mean it's only specifically for that place. Maybe for at a small amount of time, but not long term. For instance, things that go off like without a hitch in California or New York, they typically tend to be the law of the land all over. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now listen, Native American policy. Near the beginning of his first term as president, George Washington declared that a just Native American policy was one of his highest priorities, explaining that the government of the United States are determined that their administration of Indian affairs shall be directed entirely by the great principles of justice and humanity. Don't believe that. The Washington administration initial policy toward Native Americans was emancipation, or enunciated in June of 1789. Secretary of War Henry Knox, he's another key important player, explained that the Continental Congress had needless provoked Native Americans following the Revolution by insisting on American possession of all territories east of the Mississippi River. Okay? Congress had previously argued that by supporting the British during the war, Native Americans had forfeited any claim to territory on the western frontier of American settlement. So this is what they were saying. Hold on. Never mind. I'm not even entertaining it. We already know what's going on. Let's move on. As long as he's not disrespectful, y'all, if you spend all your time entertaining Shad, then you won't get the lesson. And then it won't be on me. I'm not about to entertain him. Y'all could keep entertaining him if you want. We already know what's going on around here. Okay? So yeah. I'm not about entertaining him. Y'all can keep going back and forth with this brother, with this person. It's probably a $5. You know what I'm saying? Let's move on. However, this perspective ignored the fact that only a portion of tribes had actually supported the British. So basically, like I said, what they were saying was, if y'all go fight on the side of the British, then y'all forfeit your land. So in 1787, the Confederate Congress enacted the Northwestern Ordinance, opening the Ohio Valley to a new American settlement. Members of the Western Lake Confederacy reacted by utilizing armed resistance to protect their lands. These events increased the urgency for Washington to develop a formal method for managing Indian affairs. Remember, they're trying to take the land. They've been trying to take the land since the beginning. All of these efforts are to seize land. Okay, So then it says, in referring to the constitutional grant of treaty, making powers to this chief or to the chief executive with the advice and consent of the Senate, Washington declared that a similar practice should also apply to agreements with Native Americans. The Senate acceded to the president's wishes and accepted treaties as the basis for conducting Indian relations. So now we're introduced to treaties. Yeah, let me do that. Let me do a subscribers only chat. You're right. Yeah, it's on here. Let me do a subscribers only chat. That'll do it. There you go. We on subscribers only. Let's go. Let's go. All right, look. In response, Congress proceeded to approve a treaty with 7 northern tribes: the Shawnee, Miami, Ottawa, Chippewa, Iroquois, Sauk, and Fox. These are the tribes. Listen, this agreement, however, lacked meaningful protection of tribal land. To the northern tribes, this ineffectual treaty and the constant intrusion into their lands by droves of settlers meant that the American government had little control over its own citizens. Members of the northern tribes believed it was necessary to deploy force to prevent further incursions. Listen, these people ready to die and do what they need to do for their land. These people ready to do whatever they need to do to protect their land. They ready to go to war behind it. Washington's desire to protect American citizens led to an American military response. In 1790 and 1791, Washington dispatched armies to confront Native forces. In both instances, the Americans were soundly defeated. The Indians was kicking their ass. Responding to these two embarrassing setbacks, Congress authorized a 5,000-man regular army to quell resistance. Led by General Maude Anthony Wayne, the Legion inflicted a crushing defeat on the Indian Confederation in the summer of 1794. This decisive battle and the ensuing Treaty of Greenville brought a tentative peace to the Northwest in 1795. So this is what's going on. All of these immigrants, like, the ones we see today, are coming in, and the government is like, okay, if you fight for the on the side of the British, you forfeit your land, which wasn't right, but they did it. Then they turned around and was telling people, okay, we trying to get that land about you for our colonizing immigrants. And we fought and won, and then as usual, they come back with bigger numbers, and then they win. So this is very important. Remember, these people are going into these small wars over land. I keep telling y'all, that's what they fight for. Simultaneously, as momentous events in the north unfolded, Washington also faced challenges from the 4 southern tribes. From the Cherokee and the more distant Choctaws and Chickasaws, Washington sought messages of assurance, friendship, and plans for trade. The formidable Creeks were the 4th southern tribe. Washington regarded the Creek with considerable apprehension because of their disagreement with the state of Georgia's interpretation of 3 treaties that had been negotiated by the state during the 1780s. These treaties included significant cessions of land. Listen to it. These treaties included significant cessions of land from the Creeks to Georgia that the tribe did not recognize. Remember, now, even in 2024, that's why I was talking to y'all earlier about these card-carrying Native Americans or whatever they want to call. Listen, the whole federal recognition and all that stuff, yeah, it's good in certain instances and it's bad in another. And the only reason I'm saying it's bad in another because now you fall under their leadership and their rule. And these people are taking lands from Georgia tribes that were not federally recognized. So you mean to tell me if we didn't decide to go and play your game, because that's what they're asking, you either play the game or you not recognized, and they're like, all right, bet we don't need to be recognized. They took their land because they weren't one of the recognized tribes. The Suma Indians was not probably, and I got to check it out, probably wasn't a recognized tribe. It says the Creek's leader was Alexander McGillivray, A mixed race, look at that, half and half. What I told y'all who they be getting, the foreigners and the half and halves, was a mixed race chief who spoke fluent English and was a shrewd negotiator. 28 Creek chiefs led by McGilvery accepted Washington's invitation to travel to New York in the summer of 1790 to negotiate a new treaty. The result was the Treaty of New York, which restored to the Creeks some of the land ceded in the treaties with Georgia and provided generous annuities for the rest of the land. So they went up there to New York and they didn't even get all their land. They got some of their land. It also established a policy and process of assimilation called civilization, aiming to attach tribes to permanent land settlements. Under the policy, tribal members will be given useful domestic animals and implements of husbandry to encourage them to become herdsmen and cultivators instead of remaining in a state as hunters. Remember, cultivating, agriculture, all those were women's jobs. All those were women's jobs. But now they trying to entice them. Look, hey, we'll give you some land. We'll give you some animals, all that type of stuff. Go ahead on so you could be a herdsman. You know what I'm saying? And some of them, unfortunately, took the bait. In August 1790, the Creek chief is formally approved of the Treaty of New York. The Creek chiefs agreed to place themselves under the protection of the United States. Remind you, this was the $5 footlong. Well, it's 1790. I want to say it was. Don't quote me on that. Hold on. In return, the United States confirmed that the sanctuary or the sanctity of the Creek land lying within the boundaries defined by the treaty, right? However, the Treaty of New York failed to achieve its goals. You got played, stupid, as the federal government could not stem the relentless incursion of American settlers onto protected Indian lands. Of course they could have. They just didn't want to. That's what it was. Of course they could have stopped them folk from settling on your land. They didn't want to. Let me move on. In a letter to Washington, Knox agonized over the possibility of Indian extermination. He observed that in the most populous areas of the United States, some tribes had already been decimated. If the same causes continues, he explained, the same effects will happen, and in a short period, the idea of an Indian on this side of the Mississippi will only be found in the page of the historian. This is very important. This is extremely important. Listen, Knox is telling the president in Washington, look, hey man, you gave us these lands, but all these immigrants, migrants, illegals, colonizers are coming in here and they taking over all of this stuff and unaliving our people. If you continue to do this, they will be pages of historian, like my tribe, the Suma Indian, right? So he's saying, hey, I'm scared of this, bro. You got to do something about this. And the government acting like, oh my God, for real? I didn't know this was going on. You don't think they sent them people down there, baby? This was all a part of their plan. We got duped. Washington and Knox sought to provide safe havens for native tribes while also assimilating them into American society. Wow. So now you're going to assimilate them into American society as you hide them. Washington and Knox believed that if they failed to at least make an effort to secure Indian land, their chances of convincing Native Americans to take up Euro-American lifestyles and economics would be undermined. As the two reluctantly came to recognize, however, it was the settlers pouring into the western frontier that controlled the national agenda regarding Native Americans and their land. By 1796, even Washington had concluded that holding back the avalanche of settlers had become nearly impossible, writing that I believe scarcely anything short of a Chinese wall or line of troops will restrain land jobbers and the encroachment of settlers on Indian territory. Let me tell y'all something. This was all one big play. You got to know this part. And the big play is, again, remember what I keep telling you, if you enslave here, you enslave this is another way they were able to take your identity from you. Because over here, he's saying that, listen, I'm going to indoctrinate you guys into, or induce you or assimilate you into American society. That wasn't the culture. That was never the culture. Now, you say you're providing safe havens. Why is you assimilating them into American society? But like I say, ain't it the foreigners and the half and halves they get to do the dirty work? People don't understand. They don't have the connection to us that others would have because they're not us for the most part, especially the half and half. So all of that to say, wait, as the two recognize, however, it was the center of the point. He was saying, no, yo, like you, all right, I'm assimilating these people, but these people, these foreigners keep coming in. And Washington was like, oh, well, you know, I can't stop them from pulling up on y'all. Sorry. And he like, nigga, you could build a wall. Look. Anything short, he believes scarcely. That means, nigga, you ain't even got to try. Anything short of a Chinese wall or a line of troops will restrain land jobbers and the encroachment of settlers upon Indian territory. But Washington was up there playing stupid. Oh, I don't think it's nothing I could do. It's nothing I could do. You see what I'm saying? This is extremely important. This is another thing that I want to show you guys as it pertains to how we lost land and how we lost our identities. In the middle of taking our lands and unaliving us, the ones left, you assimilated us into American society. What the hell? What do you mean assimilate them into American society? All that, and you still gonna take the land and send them clear people down here to take the land? You see what I'm saying? Y'all, it gets deep. I'm about to show y'all some stuff. It gets deep. It gets deep. Now, remember the key players. George Washington and these treaties that we getting played on. George Washington and these treaties that we keep getting played on. Let's move on. Let's go to the Treaty of Hopewell. This is a good one. I got this one from encyclopedia.org. Encyclopedia.org. This is extremely important. Check this out. A much smaller Chickasaw delegation, including men and women, arrived. Let me see. Let me scroll up. I think it was something at the beginning I wanted to share with y'all. Listen, the Treaty of Hopewell refers to 3 treaties negotiated with Cherokee, Choctaw, and Chickasaw nations in 1785 and 1786 by commissioners appointed by the U.S. government under the Confederation Congress. The original commission appointed by Congress in 21 March 1785 included Benjamin Hawkins, Joseph Martin, and Andrew Pickens. Lachlan McIntosh was added when 2 others refused to serve. The commissioners sought to impose a federal Indian policy on the post-revolutionary South and to nullify the Spanish influence among the Southern Indians. Okay? Now listen. Sorry, let me make it down. All 3 treaty documents extended the peace, friendship, and protection of the United States of America and of no other sovereign whosoever. The documents were virtually identical except for the articles that describe their national boundaries, and the Cherokee Treaty contained 13 articles, while the Choctaw and Chickasaw treaties only had 11. Several articles provided for the restoration of prisoners and property captured during the Revolutionary War, prohibited American citizens from settling on Indian lands, forbade retaliation, and required that criminals be delivered up and punished. Don't believe that. Don't believe that. Please don't believe that. That's that faded pictures right there. Look. Where was I? 2 articles provided for trade and the exclusive right of trade by the United States, and the 3rd article required notice of any designs against the peace, trade, or interest of the United States of America. In addition, an article in the Cherokee Treaty guaranteed justice respecting their rights and the right to send a representative to Congress. Otherwise, the treaties use the same language, contrived assurance of peace and friendship, and concluded that the hatchet shall be buried forever. Now, who's in Congress right now that say they're $5 foot long? They say they're Native American. And remember, Trump was like, "You don't look like no Native American to me." What's that lady name? What's the lady name? I'm about to Google it. Because remember, look, in this treaty, they say they will have somebody from their nation up in Congress. Who in Congress? I told y'all the shit. Listen, nothing is new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. I keep telling y'all. Elizabeth Warren, thank you, Improvise. Elizabeth Warren, that's who it is. Elizabeth Warren is the one up there hollering, "Nah, I'm Native American. What she is, Cherokee? I don't even know, because when she said it, I laughed. But she the one up there now claiming she's an Indian. She's a Native American. Because according to the treaty, they will always have one piece of representation up in Congress. Now, why is that a problem? Because that's not the real representation. Elizabeth Warren ain't no goddamn, she don't even look like the $5 footlongs. She don't even look like the $5 footlong. That lady look like she come straight off of Ellis Island. Girl, what is going on? But it don't matter, because see, it's not about what's real. It's about what's written. You see what I'm saying? That's all it's about. So look, boom. So boom. Where was I? Despite internal and external opposition to dealing with the American government, Cherokee, Choctaw, and Chickasaw delegations traveled to Pickinson's plantation home, Hopewell, on the Kiawee River in northern South Carolina. Each nation claimed anti-American factions, especially the militant Chickamauga, Cherokee, or Spanish or pro-Spanish factions that sought trade and alliances with Spain. In addition to internal opposition, Alexander McGillivray, the pro-Spanish leader of the Creek Confederacy, prevented his nation from reaching an agreement with the commissioners and attempted to dissuade and intimidate the Chickasaw and Choctaw. So this Alexander dude was definitely an op. He was definitely an op. Because he the one that's preventing his nation from signing while everybody else ready to go. They don't want to be pro-America, none of this stuff. Listen, the Cherokee delegation, which included 918 men and women, arrived over a period of several days and delayed the opening sessions until mid-morning on 22 November 1785. Along with speeches and the presentation of symbols or symbolic tokens of friendship, discussions centered on disputes about boundaries between Cherokee and U.S. territory. Despite the protestations of some Cherokee leaders, the U.S. commissioners and 37 Cherokee chiefs and warriors signed the treaty on 28 November. So now we got half of the people on here for it. Well, some of the people are here for it, but a lot of them aren't. And this is why it's important, because remember, these are your chiefs, so they're speaking for their tribes and their nations. But if your chief that is chosen or selected by either the government, by way of bribery through the nation, or just period by the government, he's not going to be acting on your behalf. He's just not. That's why today, if you see a black person in Congress or in the not the military, in politics, and they not African American, even the ones who are African American, they don't act on your behalf, because that's not what they're here to do. They're not here to act on your behalf. Okay? So now look. The Cherokee before them, their men and women followed a regimen of rituals and ceremonies in their discussions with the commissioners. They marched in carrying white poles and white deer skins attached as peace tokens, performed the eagle tail dance while painted in white clay, and exchanged gifts of in white clay and exchanged gifts with the commissioners, including the calumet pipe and eagle feathers. Each Choctaw speaker from Yokanahama, and on the first day through the Mingahupi, 4 days later, emphasized the sunny weather and the importance of the sun in helping to create friends and allies out of the Euro-Americans. All right? Nah, this how you know it ain't them. Them folk don't get no sun. The Choctaw delegation, handpicked by French headman or first chief, included men known for their pro-British connections, as well as Taboka, second chief of the Choctaw, noted for his diplomatic finesse as a leader and chief spokesperson. While the commissioners talked about peaceful relations and boundaries, the Choctaw journey to South Carolina to establish trade relations with Euro-Americans on the Atlantic coast and to supplement the flow of manufactured goods from the Spanish. Unlike the Cherokee and Choctaw, felt no need to discuss boundaries. Unlike the Cherokee, the Choctaw felt no need to discuss boundaries because their land had not yet been invaded by the Euro-Americans. And the Choctaw failed to understand Article 3, which describes the boundaries are reserved 3 tracts of land, 6 miles square for trading and controlled by the United States. After several days, 31 Choctaw metal chiefs and captains concluded their negotiations on 3 January 1786 and placed their marks on the treaty documents signed by Hawkins, Martin, and Pickens. A much smaller Chickasaw delegation, including men and women, arrived 4 days after the Choctaw signed the Second Hopewell Treaty. Hawkins, Martin, and Pickens opened their third treaty session at 10 o'clock on 9 January 1786 and addressed Chickasaw using the same speeches promising peace and the blessings of the new change of sovereignty over this land, which you and us inhabit. Following an explanation of a draft of the treaty by commissioners, Mingo Tushka, and Latopi, who represented the pro-American faction of their nation, addressed the conference, and addressed several strands of white beads and broad wampum belts as tokens of friendship and peace. All right. Piamongo boldly represented himself as the head leading warrior of the Chickasaw Nation and of the Mangatusha presented a medal worn by our great man. He is dead, but sent by his daughter as a token of peace. Although Piamongo questioned Article 1, stating that he had taken no American prisoners to surrender, he agreed to Article 3, which described the boundaries of the Chickasaw Nation and provided for the establishment of trading posts on a circular tract of land 5 miles in diameter near the mouth of Bear Creek. Let me say this, you guys. First of all, I think our biggest mistake was trying to sign treaties with them, but I get it. At the time, we were going through a lot of wars. They were unaliving a lot of people. They had the power, or at least we thought they did, but they had all of the manpower. They had the blickies. You know what I'm saying? They had the government. They had the militaries. They had more than we had. So we went in to sign these doggone treaties. The problem is, first of all, none of us could agree on nothing. Half of us went one way, half of us went the other way, as far as what we agree with. And even when you did sign, you signed on shit that you really didn't fully agree with, because like they say, you might agree on Article 1 but don't like Article 3, but you got to sign the whole damn treaty. Yes, improvise, same as today. The thing is like, even with politics today, when you try to get into their game, it never works. I think if Black people today were to create a government, create a nation, a military, and all those things, we're going to get into that too. I think that we will be better off, because none of these treaties have served us. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of our chiefs and representations were either bought and paid for, or they were foreigners or half and halves. Literally. because it's not working out, and it has not worked out in our favor. Let me read this last paragraph down here. When the commissioners of Chickasaw chiefs convened the next day, 10 January, they presented 2 copies of the treaty and a map to Chickasaw lands. After reading the treaty and explaining each article, the commissioners asked the Chickasaw to sign the document, and Piemongo, Mingatusha, and Latopia made their marks below the signatures of the commissioners. The treaty signed at Hopewell left U.S. relations with Southern Indians in a precarious situation. Despite their marks on the treaties, none of the delegations recognized the sovereignty of the United States over their lands. Again, we got played. Again, we got played. Okay? Because they signed, they went through all of this. They went through all of this stuff back and forth, day 1, day 5, day 10, traveling from far, far away. Mind you, they didn't have no cars. They traveled all that far for them people to not even recognize the treaties. And they still came back and did whatever it was they wanted to do. That's America. Don't they do that today? That's literally how they are. That's how they roll. That's literally how they roll. I want to show you guys something else. And I'm just going through these treaties so you can understand how we were signing these treaties and we kept getting played. Hell, it's the same with the voters' rights. It's the same with the voting rights. We thought our ancestors thought getting voting rights would be a way for us to become first-class citizens. They did all of that, fought for all of that, and we still ain't first-class citizens. Let's get into this. Hold on. Is this the one I had? Let me go back to this other one first. Hold on. I have to go show you this, another one before I show you this one. And then we're going to get into the American Revolution. Pay attention. Remember, it starts in one place and spreads all over. So don't you for once think, oh, that was just in Kansas, or oh, that was just in Virginia. That don't go like that. It'll be to a city near you soon. Look. Bleeding Kansas. The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 instituted a policy known as popular sovereignty in the Kansas Territory, allowing the settlers to decide by vote whether the territory would be admitted to the Union as a slave or free state. Activists from each side flooded the territory in an attempt to influence the outcome, leading to violent, often deadly clashes that foreshadowed the nation's civil war to come. During Bleeding Kansas, murder, mayhem, and destruction and psychological warfare became a code of conduct in eastern Kansas and western Missouri. Who on here from there? The years of 1854 to 1861 were a turbulent time in the Kansas Territory. The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 established the territorial boundaries of Kansas and Nebraska and opened the land to legal settlement. It allowed the residents of these territories to decide by popular vote whether their state would be free or slave. This concept of self-determination was called popular sovereignty. In Kansas, people on all sides of this controversial issue flooded the territory, trying to influence the vote in their favor. Rivalry into territorial governments, election fraud, and squabbles over land claims and contributed to the violence of the era. 3 distinct political groups occupied Kansas: pro-slavery, free slavery, and abolitionists. Violence broke out immediately between these opposing factions, and continued until 1861, when Kansas entered the Union as a free state on January 29. This era became forever known as Bleeding Kansas. During Bleeding Kansas, murder, mayhem, destruction, and psychological warfare became a code of conduct in eastern Kansas and western Missouri. A well-known example of this violence was the massacre in 1856 at Pottawatomie Creek, where John Brown and his sons killed 5 pro-slavery advocates. We wasn't playing. And let me say this. Remember who that was? Andrew, no. Yeah, Andrew Jackson. Remember Andrew Jackson said he could tell who the Indians was by their last name? Remember that? Look at this man's name. John Brown. Remember in school, they taught us we got all our names from whoever was our owner, our plantation owner. Them people, that didn't go like that. But John Brown sound like a regular name. It sounds like a regular name. But the fact of the matter is, he was one of the people who went ham and he went, what's that dude's name? He went crazy and started unaliving them folk, the pro-slavery advocates. Look, in the Fort Scott area, trouble began in the summer of 1856 when a group of about 30 pro-slavery settlers from the South Carolina arrived in Bourbon County. It was suspected that they were sponsored by the Southern Immigrant Aid Society and were members of the Dark Lantern Societies. These societies terrorized free state settlers and attempted to drive them from Kansas. Ain't Kansas super like racist right now? Listen, a town divided. Fort Scott and the surrounding area were not immune from the violence. The division of opposing factions was clearly visible at the site of the old fort. The military had abandoned Fort Scott in 1853. 2 years later, the buildings were sold at a public auction, and the former fort immediately became the nucleus of a rapidly growing town. 2 of the buildings became hotels. One, a former officer's quarters, was opened at the Fort Scott and Fort State Hotel. Located right across the parade ground was the Western and pro-slavery hotel, a former infantry barracks. The residents of Fort Scott were predominantly pro-slaves, while free-slaters and abolitionists dominated the surrounding countryside. Radicals of each faction terrorized the town throughout the Bleeding Kansas era. By 1858, trouble had intensified in southeastern Kansas. Radical elements from other theaters of the conflict were now converging on the Fort Scott area. James Montgomery became a leader of Free State forces and was involved in several violent incidents. In 1858 of April, Montgomery and his men fought U.S. troops stationed at Fort Scott in the Battle of Paint Creek. 1 soldier was killed in this encounter. In May of 1858, Montgomery and his men drove pro-slavery forces from Lynn County. In retaliation, 11 Free Staters were pulled out of their homes, taken to a ravine, and shot down. This incident, known as the Marais de Signes massacre, was rumored to have been plotted in the Western Hotel. On June 5th, 1858, Montgomery and his raiders tried to burn down the Western Hotel. Several shots were fired into the hotel surrounding homes, but the hotel was saved. Listen, there's a reason why Martin Luther King's speech was turn the other cheek and nonviolence. Them people know what we can do. They know what we're capable of. That's why they keep us riled down, not riled up. This is who we was told. What's that dude name? They say he was a slave and led a doggone revenge against them folk. Y'all know I'm bad with the names off the cuff. This sound like that man. What is his name? I hate that, y'all. Nat Turner. Thank you, Tamara Talks, girl. This sounds like what Nat Turner was. This sounds like Nat Turner. Like he went up. He was like, man, screw that. It's up. Man, let's get these you know what I'm saying? This is giving Nat Turner. Violence such as this caught the governor's attention. On June 15, 1858, he held a meeting at the Western Hotel in order to settle political unrest. We don't do that no more. While this meeting nearly devolved into a riot, it was successful. Peace and quiet reigned for a brief 5-month period. Montgomery and his raiders struck again in December of 1858 when he rescued Benjamin Rice, a free stater. Rice had been arrested for murder and was imprisoned in the Fort Scott Hotel. Montgomery claimed that Rice had been jailed illegally, so he came to Fort Scott to free him. That's right, free that man to his backwards. Free that man to his backwards, okay? In the struggle following Rice's rescue, former Deputy Marshal John Little, a pro-slavery advocate, fired shots into the ranks of the free staters. Little peered out of a window of his father's store, the former post headquarters, to observe the effects of the shooting. His movement was noted by a free stater who shot and unalived him. Little's fiance, Sean Campbell, wrote Montgomery a letter reprimanding him and saying that he was a minister of the devil and a very superior one too. Listen to me. This is her. Fort Scott, January 4th, 1859, Montgomery. Listen to me. Today I heard that you said in a speech a few days ago that you were not sorry you had killed John Little. That he was not killed too soon. Can you, before God, say so? Oh, the anguish you have caused. He was one of the noblest men ever created, brave and true to his country and true to his word. You can't prove that he ever injured an innocent person. A few days more and we were to have been married, then go south to trouble you no more. But through your influence, he was killed. He was sent to another world without even time to pray or to say goodbye to his friends. But thanks to God, though you did kill his body, you can't touch his soul. No. It is in the spirit of land. It is in the spirit land. Now the cry of the Osages are coming can awaken him no more. He quietly sleeps in our little graveyard. But remember this, I am a girl, but I can fire a pistol. Go ahead on, girl. And if ever the time comes, I will send some of you to the places where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Who said that? Don't Jay-Z have a hook? Talking about is the mourning and the weeping? No, it's Kanye West song, gnashing the teeth, where they be talking about weeping and gnashing the teeth. Girl, you a minister of God? You mean a minister of the devil, and a very superior one too. I have no more to say to you and your imps. Please accept the sincere regards of your future repentance. Sean Campbell or Sine Campbell. Look, Bleeding Kansas was part of the political storm that occurred throughout the United States before the Civil War. The anti-slavery forces prevailed as Kansas entered into the Union as a free state on January 29, 1861. The turbulence illustrated the beginning of terrifying bloodshed that was to come during the Civil War. This was a bad bitch. It was Kanye and Big Sean, yeah. It's a moaning and a weeping and a gnashing of teeth. You know what's crazy? And it could still be true, but somebody was saying that it was like demonic or something. So look, now y'all know about Bleeding Kansas, right? That was Nat Turner in Kansas. That's Nat Turner people. I'm just playing. But you know what I'm saying? This is big. Because this is what's going on. You got to keep in mind, we've been played, we've been duped. Some people ain't here for that duck ass shit. Some people like, nah, I ain't with the shits. We just about to go to war. This is why it's extremely important that even into 2024, they keep us docile. That's where the church comes in. They keep us docile. So we won't rebel. All right? Do I even need to read this after the Americans are all the bill? I'll read a little bit of this, and then we'll move to the Revolutionary War. Population composition. This is from Britannica.com. People of Kansas. Who are they? What was going on? Kansas early settlers. Remember who the settlers are. Remember what what Kendrick Lamar said, the settlers was coming down to Atlanta. Remember, he kept calling them settlers. That's the clear people. Look, Kansas early settlers were principally anti-slavery New Englanders of British ancestry. After the Civil War, the American Civil War, and with the building of railroads, many Central Europeans were attracted by the promises of jobs, laying tracks, and of free land when the jobs were finished. Remember, they need these foreigners in here like they do in Chicago and New York. Small communities populated by citizens of predominantly Russian, Bohemian, German, and Scandinavian ancestry still dot the state. The original languages have largely disappeared, though here and there churches still, their church services are still conducted in German or Swedish, and a few communities hold festivals each year at which the old folkways, food, and languages are features. African Americans, mostly from Deep South, arrived in number in 1870s, establishing farming settlements such as Nicodemus and in the northwestern part of the state. During World War II, there was an influx of military personnel and aircraft workers, many of whom remain. There is now a small but growing Hispanic minority, less than 1/10 of the population, and a smaller proportion of African Americans. The state is mainly Protestant with large communities of Methodists, Baptists, and Lutherans. Virtually every denomination and sect is represented in the state, including such rare groups as the Amish, the Dunkard Brethren, the Amish and the Dunkard Brethren. Roman Catholics make up nearly all of the remaining religious adherents. You're not about to tell me that we populated this entire land and the clear folk came settle first, then we came later. That's cap. What happened was just like what was happening over there when we were talking about Bleeding Kansas. Not Bleeding Kansas. No, the one before that, the article I read before that, when they were talking about how, hey, look, you said we signed these treaties and these people ain't gonna come settle over here. And George Washington was like, I'm trying. It's not really nothing I could do. That's what happened here, I believe. But they tell us in reverse what goes on. So they telling us the clear people came, then the African Americans came, and now all of a sudden is hardly any African Americans there. That's because they ran them folk out, just like they did in them treaties we were reading. All right, let's get into the Revolutionary War. This is very important. Let's get into Abe. Y'all know Abe. He the one behind this Revolutionary War. Y'all know Abe. Look at Abe. Now, y'all do know this picture is whitewashed, right? Y'all do know Abe was a black man, right? I hope y'all know that. Hopefully you guys know that this is a whitewashed photo of Abe. Abe was nowhere near this clear man, okay? Look. And remember, somebody said sound like the first migration. Chocolate Bunny, they've been moving us around this land since they got here. That's what they do. They've been moving us around this land since they got here. He said he looked negro. Listen, Abraham Lincoln became the United States' 16th president in 1861, issuing the Emancipation Proclamation that declared forever free those slaves within the Confederacy in 1863. That is not what this was about, but let's go with the article. This is whitehouse.gov. So, of course, this is what they want you to believe. That man didn't give a damn about no slaves. Never did. But they ended up getting him up out of there, too. The same way they got Martin Luther King out there. You feel me? They ended up, he ended up going out. Him and Martin Luther King went out the damn near the same way, except it was just in different areas. Lincoln warned the South in his inaugural address, "In your hands, my dissatisfied fellow countrymen, and not in mine, is the monumentous issue of a civil war. The government will not assail you. You have no oath registered in the haven to destroy the government, while I shall have the most solemn one to preserve, protect, and defend it." Lincoln thought secession illegal Lincoln thought secession illegal and was willing to use force to defend the federal law and the Union. When Confederate batteries fired on Fort Sumter and forced its surrenders, he called on the states for 75,000 volunteers. Four more slave states joined the Confederacy but 4 remained within the Union. The Civil War had begun. Now, this is another misconception. They told us that the black people in the South only fought with the Confederacy to get out of slavery. That wasn't true. This whole thing is a lie. Listen to me and listen to me good. Everything they telling you right now is a lie, but we about to break it down. This ain't had nothing to do with no slaves. This was about money and labor. That's what this whole thing was about. This ain't had nothing to do with money. Nothing to do with freeing slaves. The slaves were just a byproduct of what this was about. This was about money and slavery. Money and labor, okay? But they're going to tell you it was all about freeing the slave. That's a lie. Listen, peep it. A lot of us fought on the Confederate side for economic reasons. Remember, we weren't all slaves. We were not all slaves. So a lot of us fought with the Confederacy because it was in our economic interest to do so. It wasn't because even on the black people, it wasn't because we wanted to free the slaves neither. Nigga, we ain't got a doggone pay no taxes to y'all. Y'all trying to tax us, tax our anything. No, it was about taxes, bro. Look. The son of Kentucky frontiersman Lincoln had to struggle for a living and for learning. 5 months before receiving his party's nomination for president, he sketched his life. Of course he did. I don't believe this shit neither. But look, I was born February 12, 1809 in Hardin County, Kentucky. My parents were both born in Virginia and undistinguished families. Second families, perhaps I should say. My mother, who died in my 10th year, was of a family of the names Hanks. My father removed from Kentucky to Indiana in my 8th year. It was a wild region with many bears and other wild animals still in the woods. There I grew up. Of course, when I came of age, I did not know much. Still, somehow, I could read, write, and cipher, but that is all. How you learn how to read and write, bro? Abe, who taught you how to read and write? You just said y'all moved to the woods. Abe, you just said y'all moved to the woods and you was over there by lion, tigers, and bears. Who taught you how to read and write? Your parents came from a second family. Look, y'all got to ask yourselves these questions when y'all reading this stuff. Lincoln made extraordinary efforts to attain knowledge while working on a farm, splitting rails for fences and keeping stores at New Salem, Illinois. He was a captain in the Black Hawk War, spent 8 years in the Illinois legislature, and rode the circuit of courts for many years. His law partner said of him, his ambition was a little engine that knew no rest. An engines, here they come. His ambition was of a little engine, here they come, that knew no rest. He married Mary Todd. They had 4 boys, only one of whom lived to maturity. In 1858, Lincoln ran against Stephen A. Douglas for senator. He lost the election, but in debating with Douglas, he gained a national reputation that won him the Republican nomination for president in 1860. As a president, he built the Republican Party into a strong national organization. Further, he rallied most of the Northern Democrats to the Union cause. On January 1st, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation that declared forever free those slaves within the Confederacy. Lincoln never let the world forget that the Civil War involved an even larger issue. This he stated most movingly in dedicating the military cemetery at Gettysburg, that we here highly resolve that these deeds shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. Let me stop right here. I want to touch on this. Where is that? It might be further up. Hold on. No, damn, I forgot. I saw something I wanted to touch on. He rather more than the Democrat. Oh, yeah. Look. As president, he built the Republican Party into a strong national organization. Listen to me. Black people were Republicans down here. Right? So we were voting for aid. Then he starts talking about further, he rallied most of the Northern Democrats to the Union cause. Listen to me and listen to me good. He rallied the Northern Democrats to the Union cause because it wasn't about politics at that point. It was about money. It is also said that's why they put him on a penny, because he was black. But that's not the end of that. Listen, this was about money. They will put their political differences aside to fight for the bigger cause. That's what we need to start doing. Like, for real. Lincoln won re-election in 1864 as Union military triumphs heralded an end to the war. In his planning for peace, the president was flexible and generous, encouraging Southerners to lay down their arms and join speedily in reunion. The spirit that guided him was clearly that of his second inaugural address, now inscribed on one wall of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds. On Good Friday, April 14, 1865, Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theater in Washington by John Wilkes Booth. Now listen, this is another cap. Y'all mean to tell me y'all believe for real? Just like y'all believe. If you believe this, you believe Martin Luther King was really unalive by that clear man. It's bigger than that. And we all know when we went over Martin Luther King's assassination, that was a whole government operation. That the person they blamed it on was not the person who did it. But here we go. He was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, an actor who somehow thought he was helping the South. The opposite was the result, for with Lincoln's death, the possibility of peace with magnanimity died. Now, this is important. Listen. This is how you know the government had something to do with it. Who was his successor? Who became president after him? Who became president after him? Andrew Johnson. And he's going to literally overturn every single thing Lincoln had did. Listen, this is very important. I need y'all to understand this. The person coming behind him, about to, everything he did, about to screw it all up. Look at this man, girl. Look at it. Somebody said, look at his beard. That makes sense. Look. They whitewashed this man. The person coming behind him about to fuck up everything. Because remember, he gave us 40 acres in the Mule. Put a pin right there. Hold on. I want you to see this. This is going to take us into the video. Look. I want you to see this. Look. Old Honest Abe, eh? And then they put a monument up of him up in Washington. Don't they do the same thing to Martin Luther King? They got monuments of Martin Luther King all over the United States. They use you, assassinate you, and then revere you. That's what all they do. Listen. So boom, he out of here. The short-lived promises of 40 acres in the Mule. This is from history.com. History.com. Look, you see the people? The short-lived promises. His successor about to come in and wipe all that shit out. Got to go.
Both the North and the South in the 18th century had slaves, but the institution of slavery shaped them very differently. The North was a society with slaves where slavery existed and it was a form of exploited labor, but at the same time it was something that could be abolished. Whereas in the U.S. South, slavery was so essential to the entire economy and to the society as a whole.
They don't understand. There is no South without slavery.
Commence fire!
I don't want to play this because I don't know about the copyright, but listen. You heard what that clear man said? The North had slavery, but it was different in the South because it literally boomed the entire economy. That's why slavery was so important for them to go ahead on and get rid of, because they wouldn't split the money from the South to the folk up North. They said, "Now you got to give us a cut of that, bro." And them people was like, the South was like, "Hell no, hell no." And this is where it all broke down, right? Look, the Black leaders gathered for the January 12th, 1865 meeting with the military officials in a mansion called the Green Meldrum House. They explained that they didn't want to live among white people as they feared it would take years for racial prejudice to dissipate in the South. Look, before Martin Luther came, see, they teach us about segregation like it was a horrible thing. We never want to live around them people. We never wanted to be around them people. These people meeting to tell these folks, I don't want to be around y'all. It wasn't until Martin Luther King, through the children, say that again, through the children. Because remember, John Lewis went home and told his mama, remember John Lewis was on the way to college and his uncle gave him that Foot Locker and gave him $100? And what did they tell John Lewis? Don't you go messing with that. Leave that alone. Listen to me. Them black people was told John Lewis' mom and them said, leave that alone, bro. That ain't got nothing to do with you. Leave them people alone. Let them go do whatever they want to do. Our ancestors never wanted to live amongst these people. They did that through the influence of the children. They literally meet and saying, look, we don't even want to be around y'all. They teach us segregation as it was a horrible thing, and it was, but only in the sense of when we was trying to cat our behinds down there by them people. Why is you trying to sit in their diner? They can't cook anyway. Why is you trying to go to their movie theater, girl? Somebody in the black neighborhood owned a movie theater. It was propaganda. Goes back to my dream when they say it was all staged and it was fake, but it's propaganda. It's literally what it is. We had no reason to go trying to be around them folk. We didn't. Look, they meeting saying, look, we don't even want to be around y'all. Yeah, Atomic Indigo, they ain't even got no seasoning. What we coming around there for? But look, as they feared it would take years for racial prejudice to dissipate in the South. Look. Instead, they wished to live amongst themselves on their own lands. That would entail redistributing the land of Southern plantation owners. Listen, them people say, hey, we ain't trying to eat with y'all. We ain't trying to skate with y'all. Give us our own land. Let us go do our own thug, this, not eat, and leave us alone. Go lay down. This is what the people saying. Pete. The way we can best take care of ourselves is to have land and turn it till by our own labor, said the Reverend Garrison Frazier, a 67-year-old Baptist minister and spokesman for the group, which included individuals who had been enslaved and lived as free men alike. So you got slaves and free men saying, look, don't even trip. We ain't trying to be around y'all. Y'all ain't trying to be around us. Give us back our land, because that's really what they were saying, but then they're going to write this like this. Give us back our land, and y'all go y'all way, we go this way. Ashanti, we ain't want no smoke, we wanted peace. Look, peace. Now, this is slaves and free men alike. Why would the free men, why would they want to, because it wasn't like that. Listen, even in today's society, when we watch these movies, don't they tell us, the house nigga had a lot of hate for the field nigga had a lot of hate for the house nigga? If it really went like that and we were all slaves, why would the house nigga and the field nigga want to cohabitate? Because you got to think about it. The field nigga still hate the house nigga. Because yeah, we free, but nigga, I remember everything you did. I remember everything you did when you was running that plantation. And quiet as it's kept, we might leave this meeting and I might pop you upside your goddamn head. Why would they want to cohabitate? Because it wasn't the way that they showed us in the movies and taught us in school. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Look. So they wanted to cohabitate together. We want to be placed on land until we're able to buy it and make it our own, Fraser told the Union military officials. That's that pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Stanton knew that the meeting was a groundbreaking one, remarking that for the first time, government officials had asked Black Americans what they wanted for themselves. He gave them minutes taken at the meeting to Henry Ward Beecher, brother of Uncle Tom's Cabin author Harriet Beecher Stowe. After Beecher read the notes to the congregation of his New York church, the New York Daily Tribune printed the transcript in its February 13, 1865 edition, providing a historical record that still exists today. A Black publication named the Christian Recorder printed the transcript as well, right? So we done went to these people and say, look, we don't want nothing from you. Matter of fact, you ain't even got to give us the land. We'll buy it back. Let us have our stuff. Y'all go over there. We go over here. The idea to strip Southern enslavers of their land wasn't exclusive to the leaders who attended the Green Meldrum House meeting. Abolitionists Charles Sumner, and Thaddeus Stevens had promoted the idea as a way to financially devastate Confederate landowners. Harvard historian Henry Louis Gates Jr. credits Savannah's Black leaders with spearheading the events followed. At the meeting with the 20 ministers, Sherman signed Field Order 15 on January 16, 1865. The order would reserve 400,000 acres of Confederate land for members of the formerly enslaved population. When the land near the South Coast was evenly redistributed, each family would have 40 acres of tillable ground, which is nothing according to what we lost. But look, Union generals were attempting to divide these slave plantations into small farm settlements and make them available to the newly freed slaves, says Valerie Grimm, director of the undergraduate studies of African American and African diaspora studies and professor of African American and African diaspora studies. How many times are you gonna write that shit? At Indiana University, Bloomington. No mentions of mules appeared in the order, but some of the formerly enslaved population were granted army rules, resulting in this reparations program being widely known as 40 acres and a mule. The freedmen set out to begin working their new land immediately with a group of 1,000 settling in Georgia's Skidaway Island. This is very important, Georgia's Skidaway Island. In subsequent months, as many as 40,000 freedmen settled on the redistributed land. They were able to parcel it out to some of the former slaves, but for the most part, the dream was never realized, Grimm says. Promises is rescinded after Lincoln's death. The government didn't keep its promise. Following President Abraham Lincoln's assassination on April 15, 1865, President Andrew Johnson rescinded Field Order 15 and returned to Confederate owners the 400,000 acres of land, a strip of coastline stretching from Charleston, South Carolina to St. Johns River in Florida, including Georgia's Sea Islands and the mainland 30 miles in from the coast. Roy L. Brooks, a distinguished professor of law at the University of San Diego School of Law, described Johnson as a segregationist who wanted to basically return African Americans to a position. And remember, this term was not known then. So when you see these people write African Americans, that's something they're writing in today. That term was not known then. Hey, last of a dying breed. Look. Described Johnson as a segregation who wanted to basically return African Americans to a position of subordination. Johnson, though, was not the only politician who opposed this form of reparations for Black Americans. After the Civil War, there just wasn't the appetite for Black reparations, Brooks says. There were other proposals made after the war for reparations for African Americans. Congress declined to go forward with reparations, so it was not just Johnson. There was an attitude among the Congress that African Americans should simply be happy with being freed. Then they forced us to work on their lands, right? Without land of their own to work, 3.9 million members of the formerly enslaved population struggled to control their own destiny after the Civil War ended. Many found themselves working white people's lands as sharecroppers or tenant farmers, a system that was only slightly better than slavery, given the meager wages and the exploitations associated with it. I want to scroll down. Well, we can finish this out. You had massive systems of sharecropping evolving in the South in the aftermath of blacks not being able to acquire the land that they thought the federal government was going to make available to them. Grimm says, in the case of the sharecroppers, you did it so that you could get a share of the crop, which rarely was shared with black people when all the cost of production had taken place. Some black people defeated the odds and managed to become landowners. How if they're getting paid little to nothing? I never understood that part, but I know it's not true. It says the failed promise of 40 acres and a mule denied African Americans the ability to generate financial self-sufficiency, which was needed in order to resist as much as possible the Jim Crow policies of the local government in the South. Brooks says it would have provided a very timely reparation for African Americans, which would have changed the course of racial history. It would have changed the trajectory of racial inequality in our society. Well, I got a question. How them other folk owned their land? According to this, it says we were denied ability to generate financial self-sufficiency. This is what they say. Listen, you got to read between the lines. The failed promises of 40 acres and a mule denied African Americans the ability to generate financial self-sufficiency. Let's stop there. How them folk all the way down there in the South kept getting all that land in? Where they get that land from? And don't tell me they bought it. How, Sway? How did they buy it? Because you telling me they couldn't even generate financial self-sufficiency. How long? It must have took them 10 generations to buy land. How did they buy the land? How did they buy the land? Ask yourself these questions when you're reading this stuff. Now let's go to a film I want to show y'all. Oh, wait, I want to read one more little thing, then we out of here. Then I'm going to show y'all the film. The fact that this man is on here, godly. Oof. Jesus Christ. Look. This is pbs.org. We have been taught in school that the source of the policy of 40 acres and a mule was Union General William T. Sherman's Special Field Order Number 15, issued on January 16, 1865. That account is half right. Sherman prescribed the 40 acres in that order, but not the mule. The mule will come later. But what many accounts leave out is that this idea for massive land redistribution actually was the result of discussion that Sherman and the Secretary of War, Edwin M. Stanton, held 4 days before Sherman issued the order with 20 leaders of the Black community in Savannah, Georgia, where Sherman was headquartered following his famous March to the Sea. The meeting was unprecedented in American history. Now listen. So after they played us with the 40 acres and the mule, he looked like a Negro too, but you know, after they played us with the 40 acres and the mule, General William T. Sherman was gonna give niggas some land. Look. Today, we commonly use the phrase 40 acres and a mule, but few of us have read the order itself. 3 of its parts relevant here. Section 1 bears repeating in full the islands from the Charleston South and the abandoned rice fields along the rivers for 30 miles back from the sea and the county bordering the St. Johns River, Florida, are reserved and set apart for the settlement of the Negroes, now made free by the acts of war and the proclamation of the President of the United States. Hold on. Let's get into it. Look, what became of the land that was promised? The response to the order was immediate. When the transcript of that meeting was reprinted in the Black publication Christian Recorder, an editorial note intoned that from this, it will be seen that colored people down south are not so dumb as many suppose them to be, reflecting North-South slave-free blacks, class tension that continued well into the modern civil rights movement. The effect throughout the South was electric, as Eric Foner explains. The freedmen hastened to take the advantage of the order. Baptist minister Ulysses L. Houston was one of the group that met with Sherman, led 1,000 blacks to Skidaway Island, Georgia. Y'all know about Skidaway Island? Where they established a self-governing community with Houston as the black governor. And by June, 40,000 freedmen had been settled on 400,000 acres of Sherman land. By the way, Sherman later ordered that the army could lend the new settlers mules, hence the phrase 40 acres and a mule. And what happened to this astonishing visionary program, which would have fundamentally altered the course of American race relations? Andrew Johnson, that one, Lincoln's successor and a sympathizer with the South, overturned the order of the fall of 1865. And as Barton Meyer sadly concludes, returned the land along the South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida coast to the planters who had originally owned it, to the very people who had declared war on the United States of America. So Andrew Johnson came in and said, nope, give me that. Nope, give me that. Y'all leave baby sticks alone. She ain't doing nothing. Look, they say, look, give me that. And took the land back because Andrew Johnson, it's just coincidence. Lincoln got popped. And then next thing you know, the person who's going to come in and do all their dirty work, just so happens to be on the side of what the masses want, right? Yeah, I bet. That's what they want you to believe. That's all they want you to believe. Look, let's do this. I want to show y'all a video. I want to show you guys a video. You got to see this. This ain't it. Why my history look different on here? Let me see. I thought I sent this to myself. Let me make sure I ain't sent it to myself. Y'all, can I tell y'all something? I don't know if I should tell y'all this. I'm regretting some things that I'm just regretting some things. That's all I'm going to say. I'm regretting some things, okay? Bear with me. We'll have to do a members only live for that. No, not nothing with the teaching, not at all. No. I'm just saying some things that I just regret them. Every day I'm regretting them. You know how you don't pay attention to nothing till after you make a decision type tease. It's nothing personal, not like that. Let me share this with y'all. Look. I mean, it is personal, but it's not nothing that really like physically affects me. So don't think like that. Don't think like that. I want to read y'all this about the Reconstruction Era. Because look, right after old boy got unalive, Abe Lincoln. Look, right after he got unalive, that started the Reconstruction Era. Remember when we started the live? I said first they start with a war, and then they completely turn around and redo something. Then there's an action. Peep this.
Died in the last 4 years. The largest slave system of the modern.
A Yankee officer would venture to the most violent corner of Louisiana to try to impose order. A plantation mistress who...
This is all happening after the Civil War. We're in the Reconstruction Era, okay?
Slaves were now free, would struggle to reclaim her place in the world. A fiery black minister would mount a pitched battle with white landowners. And a new president would force a dramatic showdown.
That's your boy Johnson. That's your boy.
An old order, an old society has been destroyed, and everything is up for grabs.
The violence in the South was a way to reestablish white supremacy. This was a war of terror.
After 4 bloody years of civil war, Americans North and South would continue to fight over the meaning of freedom, the meaning of citizenship, and the survival of the nation itself.
You ever wonder why these people can't live without us but hate us? Because they literally can't live without us. They literally would not. I got you, baby sticks. Look, they literally would not exist without us. They just wouldn't.
Self has been shattered just as their property has. Those are the memories that white Southerners hold too close to them as examples of that their enemy were not really honorable men.
With her father dead and her brothers away fighting for the Confederacy, managing Broken Burn fell to Kate Stone and her mother. The plantation was 1,260 acres with 150 slaves.
Owning 150 slaves meant that they were in the absolute upper echelons of Southern society.
Pause. This is extremely important. They had 1,260 acres and owned 150 slaves. Now, when you watch the slave movies, don't all of the plantations be having hundreds and hundreds of slaves? That wasn't normal. That wasn't what really happened back then. Matter of fact, hell, Andrew Johnson only could afford to own 1 or 2 himself because he didn't have. You have to be rich to own slaves. You gotta feed them. You have to be rich. You gotta buy them, trade them. You can't just. You have to be rich. So it wasn't everybody who owned slaves, even clear people, because a lot of those clear people were slaves as well. You couldn't just be any old random clear person owning slaves. That don't go like that.
Wealth.
Look.
And so she is both a young, privileged woman, but she finds herself essentially on the battlefield.
A young, privileged woman. Let me fast forward.
Just think of whole droves of people that had hardly ever left the plantation, turned loose all at once with nothing in the world but the clothes on their back. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation had freed slaves across the South. But Washington still had no clear plan for what to do once African Americans were free. On January 11th, President Lincoln sent his Secretary of War, Edwin M. Stanton, to Savannah. Stanton instructed General Sherman to set up a meeting with some of the city's black ministers. He wanted to hear how the freedmen imagined their future in the South.
We just read about this.
That evening, 20 black men entered the grand parlor as guests of Stanton and Sherman. 16 were former slaves. They chose Reverend Garrison Frazier, who had purchased his freedom 9 years earlier, to be their spokesman. For the first time, federal officials conferred with freed slaves about the future of African Americans in the South.
The exchange that occurs between Sherman, Stanton, and the Union generals and Reverend Frazier is one of the extraordinary moments of the Civil War and the ending of the Civil War. Because they asked Frazier not just what should we do with all these refugees, they asked him questions about what the war meant. They asked him questions about what the Emancipation Proclamation had meant. They asked him what the presence of black troops in the Union Army meant. And in many ways, you'll find no better definition of the meaning of the Civil War and the kinds of answers that Garrison Frazier gives that day in Savannah.
The freedom, as I understand it, promised by the Emancipation Proclamation, is taking us from under the yoke of bondage and placing us where we could reap the fruit of our own labor.
To be a slave, as one of these ministers pointed out to General Sherman, was to be someone who had no control over his life's decisions. And now, these people feel the need to express their abilities, their choices.
The way we can best take care of ourselves is to have land, and we can soon maintain ourselves and have something to spare. We want to be placed on land until we're able to buy it and make it our own.
We just read it.
This was a man who never left probably coastal Georgia in his life.
And let me say this, that's very misleading too. Oh, this is a man who never left coastal Georgia in his life. We are indigenous to the land. Even if he physically never left coastal Georgia, how you think these slaves was running away? Come on now, don't do that. I want to fast forward. Don't do that now. But for the sake of time, I'm sorry.
The rights of black people, they were doing it. The radical Republicans had a vision of what Reconstruction should be. They believed it should be longer in duration. They believed the Southern states had left the Union and had destroyed their status as states. They had to be reinvented. To Thaddeus Stevens, Reconstruction meant not only safeguarding and preserving the essential results of the Civil War, but in his vision, it meant remaking the South. It meant the increase of democracy in terms of representation. It meant the spread of the right of suffrage.
The radicals' hard line marginalized them within their own party. Most Republicans feared the radicals' position on black rights would drive away white voters in the North.
It is the radical wing which is the most sympathetic to black people. The party in general was committed to a limited program of civil rights, protection of property, education, etc. But the party is not in any way committed to any sort of radical restructuring of Southern society.
Time he's seen his wife and sons in about 2 years.
Harriet and Tunis taught side by side with Northern teachers. Campbell reported that 80 children and adults on St. Catherine's and 60 on nearby Sapelo Island were enrolled in schools. More than 1,000 students attended Campbell's makeshift academies.
Wait,
the adults
I think I went too far. Hold on.
And the Freedmen's Bureau and Northern Missionary slave dwellings left from the old days.
Hold on, because I want to show y'all how they got their land.
Vegetables of all challenged until Congress convened in December. That summer, radical leaders could only watch as scores of planters descended on Washington, pleading to be pardoned. Whose petition would be denied or granted was uncertain. Still, former Confederates were hopeful. White men alone, President Johnson told one senator, must manage the South. On St. Catherine's Island, Tunis Campbell's Township was flourishing.
Now remember, this is the land. So let me give you a short, brief synopsis. So what happened was Abraham Lincoln said, all right, give them all this land between South Carolina, Georgia, Florida coast. And then he died. And then here come Andrew Johnson like, shit, psych. You know what I'm saying? Nah, we ain't giving you shit. And the white people need to run this bitch. Well, later after that, the blacks were acquired. I said the blacks. Lord, I feel like a racist. Listen. Later after that, ancestors were able to acquire a short, small piece of land right off of right on Savannah off the shore. This is where we will begin to thrive. This was our Rosewood before Rosewood. This was our Tulsa before Tulsa. Watch what happened.
369 settlers occupied 54 slave dwellings left from the old days. They grew fruits and vegetables of all kinds. But what they wanted were schools. There is one sin that slavery committed against me that I will never forgive, remembered one man. It robbed me of my education.
Before the Civil War, maybe no more than 10 to 15% of the black population of the South was literate. To learn how to read was a revolutionary act. They understood that it was necessary if they were to take their place as freed people within the Union, that they have the rudiments of education to survive.
After the war, freedmen who had secretly educated themselves quickly opened schools and warehouses, on barges, even in old slave markets. And the Freedmen's Bureau and Northern missionaries built thousands more throughout the South. At St. Catherine's, Campbell used his own savings to bring teachers down from the North. Then he called on his wife, Harriet, in New York.
He writes a letter to Harriet, says, bring the sons down. We're going to establish the schools. We're on an island of our own. There are no white people here. And we're going to lift up children. Bring all the primers you have and please join us. This is the first time he's seen his wife and sons in about 2 years. Let me say this too.
Always be leery how they'll have photos of everybody else, but a sketch of him. Always question why they don't have an actual photo of this man. Why is his a sketch and you show me photos of the people? You see what I'm saying? Always ask yourself why. Don't let that go over your head. Certain people, they show sketches. Certain people, they show pictures.
Harriet and Tunis taught side by side with Northern teachers. Campbell reported that 80 children and adults on St. Catherine's and 60 on nearby Skidaway Island were enrolled in schools. More than 1,000 students attended Campbell's makeshift academies.
The adults are being taught at night. They need to deal with white people more as equals. And to do that, they have to be literate.
White planters watching from the mainland resented the schools and the entire settlement.
They was hating.
Not just because the land had been seized from one of their own, but because of Campbell's ambition and independence.
Because we was doing better than them. They literally on the sideline hating. They literally on the sideline hating because we only got a small piece of land. They only gave us a very small piece of land and we flipped it and turned that big. We had schools, we had everything. And them clear people were poor. They were poor, not just in the South, up north too. But they were hating because we were excelling and doing well.
People like Campbell were viewed as black people out of their place. He can think for himself in ways that whites find hard to believe that a black person could think. This means then that history has somehow spun out of control.
By June 1865, Jacob Waldberg, the white planter who had owned St. Catherine's, was back in Georgia. He demanded that Campbell get off his land.
The planters are holding up deeds to the islands that are 200 years old or 150 years old. They said, no, wait a minute. This is a nation of laws. And see, my great-granddaddy had this deed.
Oh, don't let that go over your head. The white boy came back and said, you need to get off my land. Look, look, look. Don't let that go over your head. Hold on. Is it here?
Off his land.
The planters are holding up deeds to the islands that are 200 years old or 150 years old. They said, no, wait a minute. This is a nation of laws. And see, my great-granddaddy had this deed. And yours comes from a possessory title given to you in time of war for abandoned lands. How does that affect my promise of property rights under the Constitution of the United States?
Waldberg got his answer. St. Catherine's Congress passed a law forbidding any white person from setting foot on the island.
Let me say this too. So the white boy could come back and say, you don't own this land. Here go my deed. My great-great-great-great-great-granddaddy owned this land. But when they seized all that land from us during the treaties that I told y'all about, how come we didn't? I mean, I know why, but we didn't get the same results. We didn't get to say, now that this is over, you on my land. So the white boy could come back with his deeds saying, I'm 5 generations in to this thing, 5, 6 generations in, but we can't turn around and say, yeah, you got it because they seized it from my ancestors. So technically, I don't owe you shit. You owe me.
Campbell's militia stood ready to enforce it.
And they were ready to fight about it.
At home again, but so many changes. It does not seem the same place.
Bankrupt.
Now they doing good. They doing bad. We doing good.
Brother who is not home when the war comes back. He hardly.
Over growing black independence in the South.
That's your boy Andrew Johnson.
Johnson is seeing a black population who have abandoned the plantations.
Mm-hmm.
People who are demanding it, that they be treated in a decent fashion. And Johnson believes they should return to their former places of work, and they, above all, should accept their subordination to white power and authority.
Andrew Johnson believes
there's going to be a reconciliation between North and South. There's going to be a reconciliation of white Northerners and white Southerners. And if black people have to be set aside, fine.
The president abandoned his strict policy toward the planters. By fall of 1865, he was pardoning so many that special clerks had to be hired to keep up with the paperwork.
Johnson thinks that only the planters can really keep these African Americans under control. So very quickly he begins to bring the wealthy planters back into his Reconstruction policy in order to really impose subordination on the former slaves.
The planters only want to be pardoned so that they can get their land back. And so Andrew Johnson complies with their wishes, pardoning 15 to 20,000 planters, hundreds of them being pardoned every day.
So he getting all the clear people they land back.
Pardoned, they return to their islands and to their acreages all over the South, and they want the people who are then living there removed.
The president ordered that Confederate lands seized by Union troops during the war be returned to the planters, including land confiscated under General Sherman's Field Order 15. In Georgia, the assistant commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau refused to give planters back their land. Johnson fired him and replaced him with someone who would.
See?
In Washington, the head of the Bureau, General O. Howard, sympathized with the freedmen and resisted the president's decree for as long as he could. Finally, in October, Howard set out for the black settlement at Edisto Island off the coast of South Carolina. His orders from President Johnson were to effect an agreement mutually satisfactory to the freedmen and the landowners. Behind the bureaucratic language, Johnson's directive was clear.
General Howard has to tell these former slaves that the land that they thought had been given to them by the federal government now is going to be given back to the former owners. And if they want to remain there, they're going to have to sign labor contracts to work as laborers on these plantations.
Doesn't this look eerily different from the civil rights movement? Remember, these are all civil rights. So now you got the clear man coming back saying, hey, look, I know they gave y'all that land, but I got orders to tell y'all, y'all got to give it back. And not only that, you can work on it. The fuck? Nigga, are you crazy? Hell no, I ain't working on this land, nigga. This is my shit. Pete.
We won't have it. We will not have it.
These people believe that they have a right to this land. To them, this is a violation, a deep betrayal of the promises that the government made to them. They are not willing to just take this line down.
I'd endeavored to explain the wishes of the president, and with one voice they cried, no, no. In the noise and confusion, a sweet-voiced Negro woman began the hymn, "Nobody knows the trouble I feel. Nobody knows but Jesus."
Oh, yes. Happy like a mortal child.
Many had been following events in Washington and insisted they would wait and see what Congress had to say. Others petitioned Howard in writing. Wrote one man, "You ask us to forgive the landowners of our island. The man who tied me to a tree and gave me 39 lashes, who stripped and flogged my mother and my sister, and will not let me stay in his empty hut, except I will do his planting and be satisfied with his price. That man I cannot well forgive."
Right.
In January 1866,
We had a military too.
a large contingent of black soldiers arrived at St. Catharines with orders to restore the land to Jacob Waldberg.
And look, see that psychological bullshit they play right there? They got black soldiers to come. Remember, we had a military on this island too, but they didn't get the clear people to come down there. They got black people to come down there and force them people off their land. They still do that today. They put a black person in charge of down at the job who gonna do all the dirty work. Look.
Campbell's militia had kept whites off the island, but this was something different.
Hey, this is important. Campbell had a militia. He had a militia. Militias are legal by law. You can form a militia, but you can't form a gang. So Campbell had an actual militia who was able to keep the clear people off of there. They had to go get the black people to come over there. Look.
Dennis Campbell believed that the people had to take things into their own hands sometimes. But African-American freed men are not going to fire on African-American soldiers.
And they knew that.
No.
And they knew that.
The experiment in independence at St. Catharines was over. A determined Tunis Campbell headed for the Georgia mainland. In Louisiana, black farmers had leased over 10,000 acres from the Freedmen's Bureau. believing they would soon own them outright.
That was really it. We'll have to go over the other parts of this later. But let me tell y'all something. Them clear people was coming in there trying to fight them, and the militia was beating their ass. The militia was beating their ass. So what did the government do? They went and got some of us. See, back then we cared about each other and lost our land. Because they came through there. Them clear people, they came through there on that bullshit. And the militia that we formed was whipping they arse. But they were smart. They strategic. They said, send some soldiers in that look like them. They ain't going to fire on each other. See, 2024, it would have been a bloodbath. You know what I'm saying? You need the link? Let me give you the link. I forgot to be giving y'all the link. Hold on. I'm getting the link now. Hold on. I'm about to get the link for y'all so y'all can watch it if you want to go back and watch it on your own. Because it's not just about the Georgia area, but I just wanted to share this part to you guys as it pertains to what we read. Here is the link. There's the link, you guys. If you want to see this video, here is where the link is. Oh, gosh. I'm going to pin it. There's the link to the video. Y'all, it's been 3 hours. I got to get off because I got to do a little bit more packing. And then I got to get ready to finish the top of my head. I ain't going to show y'all. And get ready for tomorrow, okay? But listen, all I'm trying to show you guys is certain things. We doing a Louisiana Purchase next week, without a doubt. Only thing I'm trying to show you guys is we were duped out of a lot of land. A lot of things were taken from us because guess what? See, regardless of how they're sharing the story to us, what I know is I'm pretty sure the black people back then, the so-called black people back then, was probably like, how the fuck you gonna come over here talking about you gonna take some land back because it was yours? It was mine before it was yours. You see what I'm saying? It was my ancestors' land before it was your ancestors' land. So no, we're not doing that. But they're not going to say that when they repeat history, because that would lend itself to the idea that we didn't come off the slave ship. I'm sorry. Neither here nor there, you guys. I'm going to get off of here because I got some more things to do before I get ready to get up out of here tomorrow morning. But I appreciate everybody for being here. I'll Joe Shaw up out of here. Hope y'all got the link to the video. It's like an hour video, so it's actually a good watch. I appreciate every single one of y'all, and I will see y'all later. Bye.
Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go! It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up! Come on, blaze up! It's the beat for me! Wow, 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we love. For your boy, for your boy, for your boy, hustle for your boy, fix it for your boy, drop it for your, lift it up.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.